Hey, sixth graders, it is Miss Millwood, and I am so happy to be with you today. It seems like it has been forever since we've been together, so I guess for right now, this is the next best thing. So, if you remember, right before school got shut down, we had begun the process of discussing evidence based writing, and we were starting with the introductory paragraph. So we took some notes in class. I shared those notes with you earlier when we first started this process via your Gmail accounts. And I just added those notes to a resources section in our Google Classroom. So if you would like to take a moment, I'll go ahead and pause the video if you need to and grab a hold of those notes so that you can make sure that you're following along as we go through this process. So this week you will be doing another short story assignment and you will be doing another literary response at the end of that short story that we are requesting you use the evidence-based writing model that we've begun to share with you, and specifically for right now, focusing on the introductory paragraph. So you have your notes next to you. I'd like you please to follow along as we go through the three components that will make up your introductory paragraph when we use this evidence-based writing formula. So the three components consist of tag, and as we talked about in class, we're not talking about the tag feedback system that we use sometimes when we take a look at each other's work. This is a different tag, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Then you have your summary, and finally you have your claim, which is also known as a thesis statement. So let's take a look at these individual parts. So we're going to start with tag. And when we're talking about our writing formula, the tag stands for title, author, and genre. So this is just a handy acronym to help you and me remember what needs to go into this portion of the introductory paragraph. But this will be your first or second sentence in your introductory paragraph. And it can go title, author, genre, author, title, genre, genre, author, author, title. You can combine this in any way that sounds good, but you need to make sure that you include all three of these parts in your first or second sentence. Now, let me give you a little hint or a caveat. I'm seeing some students write things like, in the short story, Tuesday of the Other June by Mazer, and then they're just stopping. There's nothing left. So you need to make sure that you continue out that first sentence. So just including your title, author, and genre isn't enough. You need to make sure that you finish out that sentence. So in the short story, Tuesday of the Other June by Norma Mazer, the main character, June, is confronted with by a girl who has her same name. Okay, so that finishes out that sentence in a way that makes sense. Okay, so after you have your solid tag sentence, which is a complete sentence, and it is the first or second sentence of your paragraph, then you're going to move into part two, which is the summary. And I don't want you to have this big old long 10 paragraph summary, okay? We're going to keep this really simple, 2 to 3 sentences that summarize the text. Don't worry about spoilers. I want you to approach this as if your reader has never read the story that you will be writing about. So you want to include the most important details, but just in 2 or 3 sentences. If it's more than 3 sentences, it's probably getting too long. So part two, summarize the story in your own words in 2 to 3 sentences, including the most important parts that will kind of help your reader get to know what it is that you'll be talking about. And then we're going to move on to the claim or the thesis statement, which probably is going to be the most important part of your introductory paragraph. All three of these parts work together, but ultimately you're building for this moment when you have your claim or thesis. So your claim or thesis statement will be the last sentence of your introductory paragraph, and it should state a clear and specific claim. So every time you're asked to write, you have a prompt, and you will be basing your claim off of that prompt, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Okay, so what does this have to do with the assignment that you have for this week? So this week, you're going to be reading a short story called Rikki-Tikki Tavi. You will be doing a response to literature when you get to the very end of the story, and you will be using this evidence-based writing model, especially the introductory paragraph, to respond to Rikki-Tikki Tavi. So I'm already giving you a preview of what you're going to have to write about. You are being asked this question: how does Rikki-Tikki respond to the cobras, and what does this reveal about his character? Now, as Miss Binkley has already explained to you, as you go through the story, you're going to make sure that you've read it more than once. And on the second time, you're going through and you're annotating. And the annotations are clearly stated at the top of your assignment. But you're annotating things, I believe, that have to do with fear. These things that you annotate, the notes that you take, will help you later when you respond to this prompt. So, let's take a look at an example that I wrote. So if you give me just a second to toggle over. Um, okay. So I'm just learning how to do these videos, so I really appreciate your patience with me as I go through this process. So you can see that I set up my paper in MLA format. Now you will be doing your response in the Common Lit window, so you don't have to worry about, in this case, worrying about all the MLA format, okay, because it's a different format. But because I was doing it in a Google Doc, I wanted to make sure that I had all the information correct. So I just entitled it Rikki-Tikki Tavi. Again, because you're going to be working in the Common Lit window, you don't even need to have a title precisely. But when we're doing this in other formats, you will make sure that you have a title. And I didn't get too creative with my title this time, but it does have a title. And if you notice, the title of the story is written in quotation marks. So if we go back to our three components of the introductory paragraph, the first component is tag, title, author, and genre. Now you'll notice I bolded it that I went a different direction for this introductory paragraph. I went author, genre, title, but that totally works. So my introductory sentence says, Rudyard Kipling's short story Rikki-Tikki Tavi, and notice I don't just stop there because that would be a incomplete sentence. And then it continues on, tells the story of a courageous Indian mongoose. Okay, so it gives me the three tag information and then it closes out in a way that makes sense. And then because I didn't want to give you any spoilers, I did not summarize the story. I just wrote, this is where I summarize the short story in 2 to 3 sentences. Make sure to include the most important details. Imagine that the reader of your writing has not read the story before. So of course you won't do it like that. You will actually summarize the story Rikki-Tikki Tavi in 2 to 3 sentences. And then you're going to go to your claim. Now, this claim I took directly from the writing prompt that I shared with you earlier that you were going to be asked to complete. So I just wrote as my claim, the way that Rikki-Tikki responds to the cobra shows what about his character. So that's where you'll have to fill it in or reword this so that it makes sense to you. but that is my claim. Whatever I decide to fill that in with will be what I try to prove as I complete my literary response. So for this assignment, I give you full permission to steal, borrow, use, tweak my claim that I'm sharing with you right now. You can just lift it for this time and you can fill it in with the information that makes sense for you. Now, at this point, you have a complete introductory sentence, paragraph. You began with the tag, you summarized in 2 to 3 sentences, and you made a clear and specific claim. Now, we're going to get to the rest of this writing process later as we kind of try to get through this school year together. But for today's assignment on Rikki-Tikki Tabe, from this point, you will just continue to provide your reasons for why the way Rikki-Tikki Tabe responds to the cobras shows something about his character. Make sure that you include at least, okay, listen to me again, make sure you include at least one specific evidence, textual evidence from the story to support your claim. This evidence should be in quotation marks and it should be followed by the line number where you got this evidence in parentheses. Okay, so after you finish your introductory paragraph, you've got that really solid. You'll continue this time and answer the actual prompt using at least one specific bit of textual evidence that is in quotation marks and that has the line in parentheses. So let me go back to my slides here. So again, just a couple of caveats or reminders. Make sure to put the title in quotation marks. Make sure your first sentence is complete, and we talked about that. Let me move this, I'm sorry. Better. And remember, don't refer to yourself at all. So you shouldn't be using statements like I think, I believe, my opinion. Those things you just forget and you confidently state your claims and your opinions. And then use transition words to make your paragraph flow, remembering that after your paragraph is written, you're going to go ahead and answer the Rikki-Tikki Tabe literary response prompt. So this is the point where I would say, what questions do you have for me? But since you can't ask me questions in this medium, I am just going to thank you for your time to remind you that we've got this. We'll get through this together. We're here to support you. And we really hope that these videos will enhance and improve your language arts experience as we continue in these unusual times. So we miss you. Reach out when you need us. We'll be having a catch up, or excuse me, a check-in meet on Wednesday, the 18th of March at 9:30. We would love to see you all there. Keep checking your Google Classroom because everything that we're doing is posted there. And we look forward to seeing you online. Okay, bye guys.